Yo, what up, Street Dogs here? Kim. Alright, another thought. Life is inherently good, so this thought comes from the fact that when it comes to most philosophies or peoples or, modes of thinking, I think it's like everyone's, pain, suffering, blah, blah, and the purpose of a lot of these religions, spiritual things, philosophies is to reduce pain and suffering to the maximum. Now, the problem with that is, inherent in that is the bias that somehow life and being alive is inherently bad and life is pain and suffering, and therefore like the best thing that could have happened to you is not being born at all. And in that is this bias that the purpose of life is to reach this Zen-like state where there's no more pain, suffering, blah blah. Now, I don't quite agree. I think life is inherently good. I mean, for myself, I strive to live. I don't want to live forever, but I want to certainly live as long as naturally possible. So whether that be 130 years, 120 years, 100 years, 80 years, 90 years, 60 years, whatever it may be, right? I want to live life to the maximum and enjoy all of life, for the good and the bad, the tragedy, the comedy, and everything in between, and to increase the amount of dynamic range that I have in my life of new experiences, new thoughts, and stuff like that. And I think a lot of what that means is to just take everything in life in good stride, the good and the bad. And I guess this is kind of more of like Zen Taoist too, where like there's nothing in life that's objectively good or bad. It's just they're just different and they kind of change you in different ways. And I know for myself personally, I'm a lot more, physiologically joyful or happy, whatever, typically when I, sleep well, eat well, do some sort of creative activity, think well, stuff like that. But also it's, in some ways, I'm grateful for the days that I don't sleep well or I'm feeling like shit, because I have something to compare it to. Because in life there's no objective single standard for everything. It's just much of life is comparison. So for example, you're not gonna ever really know how good you have in life until you've experienced the other bad extreme. And so like you wouldn't really appreciate or know what it feels like to have slept well if you have never slept poorly in your life. And even nowadays I'm actually quite grateful. I've been sleeping pretty, like, not like super deeply, but at least falling asleep pretty quickly. Because in the past I had the difficulty of being quite sleep deprived. And so yeah, no, I'm grateful of all the things in life, and treat it all like gratefully and joyfully. And yeah, like one thing that's always quite positive to me is, people always saying, oh, why is it so bad, why is it so bad? I'm always thinking like, why isn't it worse? Because things should be worse and they're not as bad, and therefore that kind of gives me reawakened vigor to to live life and to share all the joys with others. Pessimism, in my opinion, is too easy and basic. To be optimistic is far more difficult. And so yeah, I think a big step forward in our philosophical thinking is to change our inherent beliefs and our root thinking that life is inherently good, and everything we experience, the good and the bad, the ugly, is all upside.